When you hear a title like Three Body Parts Women Notice First in a Man and it's not what you think, your mind probably jumps to the usual suspects. Maybe you think about the chest, the arms, or even the abs. Those are the areas men often obsess over in the gym and spend countless hours sculpting. And while those can be appealing, they're not necessarily the first things most women pay attention to. The truth is, what really stands out to a woman the moment she sees a man often has very little to do with the body parts he is working the hardest to show off. What she notices is usually subtle, often overlooked, and yet it speaks volumes about who that man is, what he values, and how he carries himself. Let's start with the first thing. It may surprise you, but it's a man's eyes. Not in the shallow sense of whether they are blue, brown, green, or hazel, but in the sense of what they reveal. Eyes carry energy, they speak even before the mouth does. A woman can meet a man for the first time and in a single look, she can feel whether he's confident, kind, arrogant, distracted, or uninterested. The eyes tell a story, and women are very good at reading that story quickly. Think about it. Have you ever had someone lock eyes with you, and immediately you felt at ease, as though you could trust them? Or maybe the opposite, where the stare felt cold, dismissive, or predatory. That's exactly what women are tuned into. When a woman looks into a man's eyes, she is searching for connection. She wants to know if he is present in that moment, or if his attention is scattered elsewhere. She notices if he makes eye contact with confidence, or if he avoids it because he feels unsure of himself. She sees if he smiles with his eyes, showing warmth and openness, or if his gaze feels closed off. You may not realize it, but those brief seconds of eye contact can determine whether she even wants to continue the interaction. So when we talk about the eyes, it's not about color or shape. It's about expression, depth, and sincerity. Now, let's move to the second body part women notice, and this one might be unexpected. It's a man's hands. Yes, hands, they may not seem like a big deal, but they carry meaning. Hands tell a woman about how a man takes care of himself, how much attention he pays to detail, and even how gentle or strong he might be. When she notices your hands, she sees whether they're clean, whether the nails are trimmed, whether they look cared for. You don't need to have perfect model-like hands, but neglect is hard to hide. Dirty nails, cracked skin, or roughness that clearly comes from not paying attention. These things stand out. But beyond grooming, hands also reveal how a man moves through the world. Does he gesture with confidence when he speaks, or does he fidget nervously? When he greets someone, is his handshake firm but not overpowering, or is it limp and forgettable? These subtle cues tell her a lot about his character. And yes, women often imagine what those hands would feel like if they held theirs. They notice whether your hands signal care, strength, and protection, or if they feel cold and uninviting. There's also another layer. Hands can show lifestyle. A man who works with his hands might have calluses, and while some women appreciate that ruggedness, others might see it as lack of self-care if it's excessive. A man who is deliberate about grooming shows that he pays attention to the little things, and that creates an impression of responsibility and pride. Women read these details more than men realize. Now let's talk about the third body part women notice first, and this one might truly surprise you. It's a man's posture. The way he carries himself before he even speaks is like a billboard announcing who he is. Think about it. Posture is not something you consciously think about all the time, but it communicates confidence or insecurity instantly. A man who walks into a room with his shoulders back, head up, and a natural, relaxed presence gives off an aura of confidence without saying a single word. A woman sees that and feels drawn to it because it shows strength and assurance. On the other hand, a man who slouches, who keeps his eyes low, who looks like he's shrinking into himself, sends the opposite message. Women notice posture because it reveals how a man feels about himself. Does he see himself as capable, attractive, worthy? Or does he carry doubt and hesitation in his very body language? Women can tell. Posture is one of those silent communicators that is far more powerful than words. And here's the deeper point about these three things: eyes, hands, and posture. They may seem ordinary, but together they tell the complete story of a man. His eyes show his presence, his emotions, and his authenticity. His hands reveal his self, care, his habits, and his ability to offer comfort or security. His posture reflects his self-esteem, his confidence, and the way he approaches the world. These three elements work together like pieces of a puzzle, painting a picture of who he is long before he speaks. What's interesting is that most men focus on completely different areas. They're worried about whether their arms are big enough or if their abs are visible. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good physically, women are often paying attention to the things men overlook. That's why you can find men who don't have the perfect body, but still attract women easily, because their eyes connect, their hands feel trustworthy, and their posture radiates confidence. Think about it from another angle. Imagine you meet someone for the first time. You probably don't remember their exact weight, their bicep size, or how defined their abs were. But you do remember how they looked at you, whether their handshake felt genuine, and how they carried themselves. That's what leaves an impression, and that's exactly what women pick up on as well. So, if you're wondering what to work on to make a stronger impression, the answer isn't necessarily another 2 hours in the gym. It's about presence. Practice making eye contact that shows confidence and warmth. Take care of your hands because they say a lot about how you take care of yourself overall. And pay attention to your posture. Stand tall, sit with confidence, and move with intention. These changes might feel small, but they make a powerful difference in how women see you. Let me also add this: when women notice these body parts, it's not in isolation. They connect them to the bigger picture of who you are. If your eyes are warm and sincere, she feels safe and drawn to you. If your hands are cared for, she interprets that as you being someone who pays attention and values yourself and others. If your posture radiates confidence, she believes you have direction and self-respect. All of this creates attraction not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Sometimes men underestimate how much women pick up on these subtleties. Women are naturally observant. They notice things you may not even realize you're revealing. That's why two men can stand side by side, one with chiseled abs and the other with average build, and the woman may gravitate toward the second because of the way he looks at her, the way his hands move with ease, and the way he stands with quiet confidence. Attraction is rarely about perfection. It's about presence. And presence is something every man can develop. You don't need to be born with it. You build it by being aware of how you carry yourself, how you connect with others, and how you show up. It's in the way you choose to maintain your hygiene, the way you make people feel with a glance, and the way you walk into a room as though you belong there. These are not things you can fake for long. They have to come from a genuine place of self-awareness and self-respect. The beauty of this is that it shifts the pressure. Instead of worrying endlessly about whether you're tall enough, muscular enough, or conventionally attractive enough, you can focus on what truly makes an impression. Your eyes, your hands, and your posture are things within your control. You can train yourself to look people in the eye with confidence. You can make sure your hands are clean and cared for. You can practice standing tall and moving with assurance. And what happens when you start focusing on these things? you'll notice women respond differently. They'll feel more drawn to your energy. They'll trust you more easily. They'll be curious about you, because these are the things that create connection. They don't scream for attention like flashy muscles might, but they quietly demand respect and attraction. At the end of the day, women are not looking for perfection. They are looking for authenticity, confidence, and care. They notice the eyes because they reveal your spirit. They notice the hands because they show how you treat yourself and others. They notice the posture because it reflects your inner confidence. Together, these things say more about you than any six-pack ever could. So the next time you're wondering what really matters, remember this. It's not the flashy things you think. It's the simple, subtle things you may have been overlooking all along. And when you get those right, you'll realize that women notice you in ways you never expected. You see, when we really take a step back, what women notice in those first few moments has less to do with superficial attraction and more to do with signals. They're scanning for cues, sometimes unconsciously, about who you are and what it would feel like to be around you. It's not that a well-built body or expensive clothes are invisible. Of course, they might catch her attention for a second, but the deeper impression always comes from the signals behind the surface. That's why men who spend all their energy on muscles or style alone often end up confused when those efforts don't translate into real connection. They're focusing on the wrong priorities. Let's go back to the eyes for a second. Think about how powerful they are. When you meet someone who really looks at you, who isn't distracted by his phone or glancing around the room, you feel valued. A woman notices that. It tells her, this man knows how to be present. And presence is rare today. Most people are caught up in constant distraction. So when your eyes show that you are focused, that you're listening, and that you're genuinely interested, she feels an immediate shift. She doesn't just notice your eyes, she feels the respect in them, and that stays with her. Now let's think about the opposite. Imagine a man who avoids eye contact, who looks away too quickly, or whose gaze feels too intense, almost like he's trying to force attraction instead of letting it flow naturally. That makes her uncomfortable. It doesn't matter how attractive he is physically, those eyes will shut the door before it even opens. Women don't just see the eyes, they feel the intent behind them. That's what makes the difference. The same goes for hands. There's something grounding about them. When a man uses his hands with intention, whether he's gesturing as he speaks, reaching to shake someone's hand, or simply resting them calmly, it communicates control and calmness. Women read that. They may not consciously think, oh, I like his hands because they're clean and steady, but subconsciously it creates a sense of safety and stability. Have you ever noticed how some people make you nervous because they're always fidgeting, tapping, or biting their nails? That nervous energy transfers. A woman senses that and it makes her uneasy. Compare that to someone whose hands are still, whose movements are deliberate and graceful. That energy is contagious too, but in a positive way. It calms the space and makes her feel secure. That's why hands matter far more than most men realize. Posture works in the same way. It's the silent megaphone of your body. A straight, relaxed, confident posture doesn't just look good. It feels good to the person observing you. It signals self-belief without arrogance. It says you know your worth, but you don't need to prove it. Women gravitate toward that energy because it feels reliable. On the other hand, slouched shoulders, close, doff arms, or constant shifting communicate insecurity. Even if she can't put it into words, she reads the message loud and clear. This man doesn't trust himself, so why should she? What's fascinating is that these three body parts are not only the first things women notice, but they also shape everything that comes after. Let's say you approach a woman. If your eyes make her feel seen, your hands look cared for, and your posture radiates confidence, she's already open to engaging with you before you've spoken much. The words you choose matter less because your body has already spoken. But if your eyes are evasive, your hands are neglected, and your posture is weak, then even the most charming words may fall flat. She's already made a silent judgment. That's how powerful these things are. Another point that's worth thinking about is how all of this ties to self-respect. A man who takes care of his hands, who pays attention to how he carries himself, who makes eye contact with presence, is showing that he values himself. And women pick up on that instantly. Because how can you truly value someone else if you don't value yourself? These body parts are less about how you look and more about what you're communicating about your inner world. This is also why women often find themselves attracted to men who aren't conventionally handsome. Maybe he doesn't have a cover model face. Maybe he doesn't have a shredded physique. But his eyes are alive, his hands are clean and strong, his posture is magnetic. Suddenly, he becomes incredibly attractive because she's feeling something deeper than surface appeal. That's what men often miss. Think attraction is about PR, but in reality, conviction attraction is about connection. And connection comes from signals. Signals women are trained to notice. I'll tell you something else. These things are universal. It doesn't matter what culture, background, or environment a woman comes from. Eyes, hands, and posture always stand out, because they're tied to basic human instincts. The eyes tell her whether you can connect. The hands tell her whether you can care. The posture tells her whether you can protect. These are primal cues. They go beyond logic. They speak directly to emotion and instinct. That's why they matter so much. And because they're so instinctive, women often can't even explain why they felt drawn to someone. She might say there was just something about him. That something is often the combination of these three things working together. It's not always about what's obvious, it's about what's felt. And when you put that into perspective, you realize that attraction is not nearly as complicated as people make it out to be. It's about understanding the signals you're sending and making sure they align with the man you want to be. Now here's where it gets interesting. Improving these three areas doesn't require huge dramatic changes. You don't need endless hours in the gym or expensive clothes. It's small, intentional habits. For your eyes, it's practicing presence. When you talk to someone, look at them, not in a forced, staring way, but with genuine attention. For your hands, it's about grooming. Keep them clean, keep your nails trimmed, maybe moisturize. These are simple things, but they make a huge difference. For your posture, it's practicing standing tall, walking with intention, and sitting with confidence. These are not overnight transformations, but with consistency, they become second nature. And once they do, you'll notice not only how women respond to you, but how you feel about yourself. Because the truth is, these signals aren't just for others, they also shape your own psychology. When you look people in the eye, you feel more confident. When your hands are well cared for, you feel more put together. When you stand tall, you feel more powerful. It's a cycle. The more you practice, the more it becomes part of you, and the more naturally attractive you become. Let's think about the ripple effect. A man who shows presence through his eyes makes people around him feel seen and respected. That kind of man builds deeper connections not just with women, but with colleagues, friends, and family. A man whose hands reflect care and control becomes someone others trust, someone they feel comfortable with. A man with strong posture commands respect in any setting, whether it's a workplace, a social gathering, or a first date. These aren't just traits women notice, they're traits that elevate every part of life, and that's the hidden truth here. This isn't only about attraction. It's about becoming the kind of man who shows up fully in the world. Women just happen to notice these things first because they're tuned into them, but everyone responds to them. Everyone feels the difference. When your eyes, hands, and posture are aligned with confidence and care, doors open in ways you don't expect. Think of it like this: muscles can fade, hairstyles change, fashion trends come and go. But the way you look at someone, the way you carry yourself, and the way you present your hands, those never go out of style. They are timeless, and that's why they are the first things women notice. Because they reveal the truth, and truth is always attractive. If you've ever wondered why some men seem to draw attention the moment they walk into a room while others go unnoticed, even if they are dressed the same or standing in the same space, the answer often comes back to these signals: the eyes, the hands, the posture. They're like invisible magnets, and the truth is they work quietly. No one announces it, no one says it out loud, but everyone feels it. Picture this: you're at a gathering, maybe a small dinner or even a busy cafe. Two men walk in, one is well-dressed, his outfit clearly expensive, maybe even tailored. He's in great shape. You can tell he spends hours in the gym, but his eyes dart around the room nervously, avoiding contact. His hands fidget with his phone, tapping constantly as if he's looking for an escape. His posture is slightly hunched, his head tilted down, almost as though he wants to disappear into the background. Then the second man walks in. His clothes are simple, nothing flashy. His build is average, but his eyes meet people's with warmth. His hands rest calmly at his sides, and his posture is upright and steady. Which one do you think people, especially women, notice more? It's almost always the second. Why? Because the second man radiates presence. The first man has all the external trappings of attractiveness, but none of the inner signals that actually spark connection. This is why men sometimes get frustrated when they see women giving attention to men they consider less attractive. They think, what does she see in him? What she sees is not just surface appeal, but how he makes her feel through those signals. His eyes make her feel acknowledged, his hands make her feel safe, and his posture makes her feel like she can trust his strength. That's far more valuable than a six-pack or designer shoes. Now, it's important to understand that women don't consciously sit there and analyze. Let me check his eyes, now his hands, now his posture. It's not a checklist. It's instinct. It's thousands of tiny signals their brain picks up on in seconds. It's the same way you can meet someone and immediately sense whether they're kind or whether they're arrogant without exchanging more than a few words. We all read signals. Women just happen to be especially attuned to these because they tie directly to safety, security, and attraction. Think about hands again. A woman may not notice whether a man's shoes are from a luxury brand, but she will notice if his nails are dirty. She may not care about the brand of his watch, but she will feel the difference if his handshake is limp or overly aggressive. These little moments tell her volumes. They tell her if you respect yourself and whether you respect others. They tell her if you're grounded or if you're hiding insecurity. It's incredible how something so small can communicate so much, but that's the reality. Posture might be the most underestimated of all, because posture doesn't just affect how others see you, it affects how you see yourself. There have been countless studies on this, showing that when you stand tall, with open shoulders and a steady stance, your brain literally starts to feel more confident. Your body leads your mind, so when a man walks into a space with that kind of posture, he's not just tricking people into thinking he's confident, he actually becomes more confident. And women feel that shift instantly. They may not explain it, but they notice it. Here's a real life scenario. Imagine a woman is sitting at a bar with friends. She glances across the room. One man catches her attention because he looks directly at her with a relaxed smile, his eyes calm and steady. His hand lifts his glass in an unhurried, smooth motion. His posture is upright, open, and composed. That moment without words creates intrigue. Now picture another man nearby. He's shifting constantly on his stool, slouching, eyes darting nervously, fiddling with his phone or napkin. She notices him too, but in an entirely different way. Instead of intrigue, it creates discomfort. She doesn't want to engage, not because he's unattractive physically, but because his signals communicate insecurity. That's how much these details matter. Another layer that often gets overlooked is how these signals line up with authenticity. You can't fake them for long. A forced smile in your eyes, a tense grip with your hands, an exaggerated posture, those eventually reveal themselves. Women notice when something feels off. That's why the most attractive version of these body parts comes from being comfortable with yourself. It's not about copying someone else's style of eye contact or handshake or stance. It's about finding your own natural rhythm and leaning into it. When it's authentic, it flows. When it's forced, it shows. This is where practice comes in, because authenticity doesn't mean you never improve. You can absolutely train yourself to make better eye contact, to relax your hands, to strengthen your posture. But the goal isn't to put on a mask. The goal is to remove the habits that block your real self from coming through. Maybe you avoid eye contact because of past insecurity. Maybe your posture is slouched from years of sitting at a desk. Maybe your hands are neglected because you've never thought about them. Once you start addressing these, your natural presence shines through. That's what women notice, not the performance, but the realness behind it. It's also worth mentioning that women themselves often invest a lot into similar things. Think about it. Women know how much impact their eyes, their hands, and their posture have. A woman who makes eye contact with warmth, whose hands are cared for, whose posture is elegant and strong, she knows she's sending powerful signals. So when she notices those same qualities in a man, it feels like alignment. It feels like they're speaking the same unspoken language. Sometimes men ask, what do women really want? And the answer is often simpler than they expect. They want to feel seen. They want to feel safe. And they want to feel that the man in front of them knows himself. Eyes, hands, and posture communicate exactly that. They're not glamorous answers. They're not the things you see in movies or glossy magazine covers. But they're the things that stick, the things that last, the things women actually notice when it counts. And if you think back to your own life, you've probably experienced this too. You've probably had moments when someone's eyes made you feel important, when their handshake made you respect them instantly, when their posture made you think, this person is someone who knows who they are. Those impressions stayed with you. They weren't about perfection. They were about presence. Women experience the same thing. They're simply more tuned into it in those first moments of meeting a man. The funny part is, these are not secrets. They've always been right there in plain sight. But because society puts so much focus on surface-level attraction, the abs, the muscles, the height, the clothes, men often overlook the signals that actually carry the most weight. They polish the wrong areas and neglect the ones that matter most. And then they wonder why their efforts don't get the results they expect. The truth is, if you master these 3 areas, you're already ahead of most men. Not because women don't care about looks at all, but because these things speak directly to the emotional core of attraction, not just the surface. It's like the difference between a sparkler and a fire. The sparkler burns bright for a moment, gets a lot of attention, and then fizzles out. That's surface-level attraction. The fire burns steady, warms everything around it, and lasts. That's the kind of attraction built from presence, confidence, and authenticity. And it starts with those subtle, overlooked body parts that women notice first. What makes all of this even more fascinating is how quickly it happens. Attraction, curiosity, interest, they often begin in just a few seconds. Before a man even speaks, before he even has a chance to show his personality, his eyes, his hands, and his posture have already delivered a message. And that message can either open a door or quietly close it. Think of it like the cover of a book. People may say, don't judge a book by its cover, but in reality, everyone does it, at least at first glance. The cover invites you to open the pages, or convinces you to put it back on the shelf. In the same way, these subtle signals invite a woman to learn more or convince her to turn her attention elsewhere. What's really powerful about this is that it gives men the opportunity to take control of what they are communicating. Instead of hoping that women notice the right things, you can shape those first impressions by being intentional. If your eyes are full of presence, if your hands are cared for and steady, if your posture is confident and relaxed, you're communicating something positive without even trying to impress. And women notice. They don't just see it, they feel it. That feeling lingers even after you've walked away. Here's an example. Imagine a woman is introduced to two men at the same time. The first one shakes her hand quickly, barely looks at her, and mumbles a greeting while slouched in his chair. The second one meets her eyes warmly, takes her hand with a calm but firm shake, and sits upright as he speaks. Even if both men say the exact same words, who do you think she'll remember? The second man, without a doubt. He didn't do anything dramatic. He didn't use clever lines. He simply allowed his eyes, his hands, and his posture to send the right signals. And those signals spoke louder than words. It's easy to underestimate how important this is because we live in a world where surface images dominate. Social media highlights sculpted bodies, expensive cars, stylish outfits. It's natural to think that those are the things women notice first. And yes, they might grab quick attention, but women don't stay with what's flashy. They stay with what feels genuine. That's why you see women walk away from men who seem perfect on paper but lack presence in person. His eyes feel distant, his hands lack care, his posture feels insecure. She can't explain it logically, but she knows something is missing. The opposite is also true. A man who doesn't fit the so-called perfect image, but who carries himself with quiet confidence, can draw women in almost effortlessly. His eyes tell her he's paying attention, his hands show he respects himself, his posture tells her he knows his worth. Suddenly, she's curious, she wants to know more about him, and that curiosity is the beginning of attraction. There's also something timeless about these signals. They don't depend on trends, fashion, or even age. A man in his 20s, 30s, 50s, or 70s can all radiate presence through his eyes, his hands, and his posture. A young man might not have the wealth or status of someone older, but if he knows how to look at someone with sincerity, care for himself, and stand with confidence, he will still be noticed. An older man might not have the youthful energy of someone younger, but if his signals show wisdom, calm, and assurance, women will still find him compelling. These are qualities that cut across time and circumstance because they're rooted in human instinct. When you think about posture in particular, it's not just about standing tall. It's about the energy you project. There's a difference between someone who stands tall because they're trying to look intimidating and someone who stands tall because they feel comfortable in their own skin. Women pick up on that difference. One feels forced, the other feels natural, and it's the natural one that creates attraction. A posture that says, "I am here, I belong, I am comfortable," is far more magnetic than one that screams, "Notice me, I'm trying too hard." Hands can be the same way. A man who gestures wildly or uses his hands in a way that feels exaggerated may think he's being expressive, but it can come across as insecurity. Compare that to a man whose hands move with ease, whose touch feels calm and deliberate. There's power in restraint. Women feel it. They associate steady hands with steadiness in character. That's not something that can be faked. It comes from practice and self-awareness, and the eyes, they are the most direct bridge between two people. A glance can spark interest. A smile in the eyes can melt defenses. A steady gaze can communicate confidence without arrogance. Women notice when a man's eyes reflect honesty and when they don't. They notice when he's hiding behind avoidance or when he's forcing intensity. They notice when he's genuinely seeing them as a person rather than scanning them like a checklist. Those small moments mean everything. They're the difference between feeling objectified and feeling valued. It's also worth recognizing that women are often more practiced at this than men because they've had to be. Women are used to reading body language for safety and comfort. They know how to pick up on energy quickly because it helps them navigate the world. That's why these signals matter so much. They don't just tell her if you're attractive. They tell her if she can trust you, if she can relax around you, if she can imagine being in your space. Those are deep, primal instincts at play, and they're triggered almost instantly. Now, think about the impact this has beyond dating or relationships. In professional settings, in friendships, in everyday encounters, the same principles apply. People notice your eyes, your hands, and your posture before they notice anything else. These signals shape the impression you leave in every aspect of life. A confident handshake, a genuine look in the eyes, an upright posture. These can win trust in a business deal, earn respect in a meeting, or create ease in a casual conversation. Attraction may be the context we're talking about, but the influence of these signals goes much further. This should actually feel empowering, because while you can't control your height or bone structure or many other physical traits, you can absolutely control how you use your eyes, how you care for your hands, and how you carry your posture. These are choices. They're within your reach, and when you start practicing them, you realize how much power you've always had but maybe never used. There's nothing complicated about this. Stand tall, look people in the eyes with warmth, keep your hands cared for and steady. These are simple habits, but they create a ripple effect. They change how you see yourself, and they change how others see you. And women, especially, notice them first, because those 3 body parts don't just show what you look like. They show who you are. If you really sit with this idea, you'll start noticing how true it is in your everyday life. Pay attention the next time you're in a cafe, an office, or even just walking down the street. Watch how women glance at men who pass by. Most of the time, they're not checking out abs through a shirt or analyzing jawlines. What they respond to first is something much more subtle. It's the man whose eyes carry focus, who doesn't look lost in his phone, who notices the world around him. It's the man whose hands move with quiet confidence, maybe adjusting his sleeve, maybe resting on the counter without fuss. It's the man who carries himself upright, with a posture that makes it clear he belongs wherever he is. These are the ones who stand out, even in a crowd. The beauty of this is that it doesn't require perfection. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to be tall. You don't need to have flawless skin. You don't need to be the strongest man in the room. What matters is the way you show up. Because when your signals line up, eyes that connect, hands that reassure, posture that exudes quiet strength, You've already made an impression that no flashy outfit or bulging muscle can match. Women notice that right away, and it stays with them long after the moment has passed. Sometimes men underestimate just how sensitive women are to energy. A man may think he's hiding his nervousness, but his eyes betray it, his hands show it, his posture screams it. Women see it. On the other hand, a man who feels grounded may not even realize how magnetic he looks, because he's not trying to perform. He's just present, comfortable in his skin, and that comfort radiates outwards. Women notice that too. They notice the difference between forced and natural, between someone straining for attention and someone who simply exists with ease. You might think of it this way. Presence doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't demand, it invites. That's why it's so compelling. A man with strong presence doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room. He doesn't need to show off. His eyes, his hands, his posture already speak for him. And women are listening, whether they realize it or not. Let's bring this into a first date scenario. Picture a woman waiting at a restaurant table. She sees her date walk in. The first thing she notices isn't what brand of shirt he's wearing. It's how he enters the room. Does he stand tall? Does he look around with confidence and ease? Or does he shuffle in nervously, hunched over, eyes glued to his phone? When he sits down, does he meet her eyes directly? Does his handshake feel balanced? Do his hands rest calmly on the table? These little things may seem insignificant, but they shape the entire mood of the evening before the first question is even asked. If his signals feel steady, she relaxes. If they feel chaotic, she braces herself. That's the power of what women notice first. There's also the matter of consistency. Women don't just notice once, they continue noticing. They pay attention to whether the eyes that were warm at first stay warm, or if they turn distracted after a few minutes. They see whether the hands that seemed calm begin fidgeting under pressure. They watch if the posture that seemed strong at first slowly caves in. This isn't because they're judging harshly. It's because consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of attraction that lasts. A man who can keep his presence steady through eyes, hands, and posture is a man who feels reliable. And reliability is deeply attractive. You might be wondering, can this be learned if it doesn't come naturally? Absolutely. Every man can practice this. Start small, hold eye contact a little longer in conversations. Notice when your hands fidget and practice stillness. Pay attention to your posture when you walk into a room. Over time, these little adjustments stack up. They stop feeling like effort and start becoming part of who you are. And once that happens, women notice without you even trying. It just becomes your natural way of being. Another point that often surprises men is how much these signals affect how women feel about their safety. For many women, safety is a priority when meeting someone new. The eyes tell her if you're trustworthy. The hands tell her if you're careful. The posture tells her if you're strong without being threatening. These signals create a sense of security, which allows attraction to grow. Without them, no amount of good looks or smooth words will matter, because she won't feel safe enough to relax. And when she can't relax, connection can't happen. Consider how often women describe the men they're drawn to with words like, "He just felt calm," "He made me feel comfortable," "He carried himself so well." These descriptions rarely mention the size of his muscles or the brand of his shoes. They describe the impression his eyes, hands, and posture left. These are the details that stand out in memory because they go deeper than appearance. They touch emotion, and emotion is what creates lasting attraction. Let's flip the perspective for a moment. Imagine you're meeting a woman for the first time. You'll notice her eyes. Are they kind? Are they interested? Do they sparkle with warmth? You'll notice her hands. Are they cared for? Do they move with grace? You'll notice her posture. Is she confident? Does she carry herself with poise? These things shape your impression of her right away. So why would it be any different the other way around? The same instincts are at play, just through different lenses. This is why it's worth paying attention to the things that seem ordinary. Because they're never as ordinary as they look. They're powerful signals hiding in plain sight. They're the difference between blending in and standing out. They're the difference between being noticed for a second and being remembered long after. Women may not always tell you directly that your eyes, your hands, or your posture are what drew them in. But if you think back, if you listen carefully, you'll realize that's exactly what it was. The key is not to chase perfection, but to cultivate presence. Presence doesn't mean performing. It doesn't mean forcing yourself into some idealized version of a man. It means showing up as yourself, but with awareness. It means allowing your eyes to reflect your genuine interest. It means letting your hands demonstrate care, not neglect. It means standing with quiet assurance, not shrinking or overcompensating. This is what women notice, and once you understand that, you'll realize you already have the tools. You just have to use them. So at the end of the day, when we ask what women notice first in a man, it isn't the flashy things most men spend their energy worrying about. It's not the size of your biceps, the brand of your clothes, or the number on your paycheck. What women notice first are the things that reveal who you really are. Your eyes, because they show your presence and your sincerity. Your hands, because they reveal how you care for yourself and how you'll care for others. And your posture, because it communicates your confidence and self-respect without a single word. These three things may seem simple, but together they send the strongest signals of all. They tell her whether you're someone worth knowing, worth trusting, and worth remembering. And once you understand that, you realize attraction isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being intentional, and being true to yourself.